Poised for Exit is a show for business owners who want to achieve a successful exit based on their own terms. Your business exit will likely be the biggest financial transaction of your life, and for most, you'll have one shot at doing it right. The topics and guests we feature and the stories they share will provide valuable ideas and strategies to improve operations and grow enterprise value so you can achieve the best possible exit outcome. Now here's your host, award-winning certified exit planning advisor, Julie Keys.
Welcome, everybody, to Poised for Exit, the exit planning podcast show. Today's guest is the founder and CEO of a wildly successful full services digital agency that designs, builds, and grows its clients' online stores and does so with a Celtic flair. Stay with us. We're going to be right back.
This is Andy Kosamba, president of Calhoun Companies. We understand that selling your business is a big deal. Since 1908, Calhoun Companies has been confidently connecting buyers and sellers. From small family shops to large corporations, our expert brokers walk with you and guide you every step of the way, whether you're looking to retire or simply for a fresh start. If you're curious what your business could sell for, or if you're ready to start the process, head to calhouncompanies.com for a free and confidential consultation. Calhoun Companies, the confident choice for buyers and sellers.
My name is Todd Crow, and I'm the president of the Twin Cities Exit Planning Chapter. If you're a business owner and advisor and want to learn more about the world of exit planning, you're invited to visit the Twin Cities chapter of the Exit Planning Institute. You can expect top-level education delivered by subject matter experts at every monthly meeting. Grow your network and draw from the learning that could be a game changer for your business or your practice. There's no pressure to become a member, so come and see what the buzz is all about. Our meetings are held the second Wednesday of the month, 7:30 to 9 a.m. See the show notes for more information and registration links.
Exiting your business is a big deal, both financially and emotionally. I'm John Marquet, Certified Exit Planning Advisor with TrustPoint. We help business owners transition smoothly on their terms. Our focus is on maximizing value, minimizing stress, and giving you confidence in what's next. Whether you're selling or passing the torch, we make the process seamless. Start planning today at trustpointinc.com. That's trustpointinc.com.
Thinking about selling your business in the next few years? Don't wait to start planning. I've seen too many business owners wait too long and regret it. Freedom Financial Partners are financial advisors who specialize in exit planning for business owners, helping you reduce tax surprises, protect what you've built, and quantify how much you need from the sale. Their proven process helps you think beyond your business so you can move forward with clarity and confidence. The longer you wait, the fewer options you may have. Download your free financial readiness assessment today at ffpforme.com/exit. That's ffpforme.com/exit. Hello, Poised for Exit listeners. We are here today with Darin Lynch, who is the founder and CEO of Irish Titan. Darin, welcome to Poised for Exit.
Hi, Julie. I'm excited to chat and honored to be part of your conversation. You have a long list of storied guests, so I'm proud to be included.
Well, I'm glad to have you. I think you were on the show when we first launched almost 6 years ago.
Well, when we were talking about having this conversation, you would mention that, and it shocked me because it seemed like such a well-oiled machine, even by then, that I just assumed you'd been up and running for a while.
Yeah, well, 6 years is kind of a long time for a podcast.
Well, now it is for sure. But yeah, we spoke, pretty early, I guess, in your podcast series, and it already seemed like such a well-oiled machine.
Not as oiled as it is now, so we probably don't want to go back there and listen to that one. But this one will be great. I know it will. And like Irish Titan has the most, in my humble opinion, and I've witnessed and dealt with a lot of companies and worked with a lot of companies, but the most memorable brand and the most fun that I've ever seen.
Thank you. I think that,
awesome.
We've lucked into some of that, maybe some of it by design, maybe a little bit of a combination of the two.
And you're wildly successful as well and very client-centric. And so it isn't just that it's fun and memorable, like you really walk the talk, and we're going to talk about that. But I guess maybe before we get into some of my burning questions, you could just kind of share with us, how did you get started? How did this all happen?
Well, I think that it was inevitable that I would start my own company at some point. I think that there were early signs of that. Like, I grew up on a farm in Iowa, and there was a picture of me on the tractor with Dad wearing a tie. So I think it was obvious that I was not going to grow up to be a farmer, which now I really enjoy going home and helping Dad on the farm, although he's just recently retired. But I think that Mom and Dad knew I wasn't going to stay on the farm. So there were early signs in that regard. I think personality probably played into it. A gentleman, Mark Cohn, who I would consider a mentor, shared with me that I reminded him of himself in this way, often wrong, never in doubt, which is a common trait for a lot of founders.
Right?
And
Yes.
yeah, which I think is valuable actually as a founder and owner.
It absolutely is.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
I took a liking to technology pretty early, even though I grew up on a farm in a small town in Iowa. We had a great education system, had really early access to a computer lab, and so I got into programming pretty early. And so I went down that path, and my first job out of college, I'm a proud Hawkeye. My first job out of college was with Principal Financial Group in Des Moines. The best boss I ever had was my first boss there, Jeff Wiley, who taught me a lot of great things, like the distinction between management and leadership, two very different disciplines, a Venn diagram with the two, but two very different disciplines. And so I started to go down that path, and I had the good fortune of intentionally seeking out strong bosses that would give me some guidelines, but fewer rules, you might say. And so I had a series of jobs that ultimately, I think, shaped me. I went from Principal Financial Group to moving up to Minneapolis and running a Lawson software consulting partner back in the Lawson software days.
Really?
Okay. One of our clients was OfficeMax, and so OfficeMax decided they wanted to launch their first e-commerce site in 1997. I actually ended up running that project for them, and that's when I started to think this is what I could go into, because the e-commerce angle appealed to me. So then I went to Wilson's Leather, launched their e-commerce in 2001, went to Second Swing Golf, launched their e-commerce in 2004, and then started Irish Titan. I got my MBA from St. Thomas in venture management along the way. And so it really was a combination of my own very early inclinations towards doing my own thing and being my own boss and not taking direction well and often wrong, never in doubt, like I said, and started to fall into the path after that OfficeMax e-commerce launch, and no looking back since 2004. I burnt the boats on shore, as they say.
That's what you're supposed to do, right? Yeah.
Right.
No looking back. Yeah. Well, what a great path. Really kind of was serendipitous in a way, right?
Yeah. You know, I think that a lot of life is, if you work hard, have some decent decision-making skills, capitalize on things that happen to present themselves, life can be a serendipitous adventure.
Definitely. And so as far as adventure goes, you and I both follow Simon Sinek, and the things I've learned from him over the years and that you've actually followed and embodied, right, with your company and yourself, have been game changers. Let's talk about that. Golden Circle.
Yeah, I am a massive Simon Sinek fan. I think that, you know, books and leaders and speakers that really appeal to us do so because of their content, their style, and some timing, back to the serendipity that we talked about. And I came across Simon Sinek at a time when Irish Titan had been growing. I had built enough of a team around me that I had a chance to intentionally take a bit of a step back, pause, reflect around why are we growing? What are we doing well? What are our strengths so that we can continue to do those sorts of things intentionally? And you know, I was sort of consciously, I wouldn't say struggling, but exploring those sorts of topics, and then came across Simon Sinek and start with why. And that is particularly, I think, resonant when you're going through those sorts of questions. And I already had actually I had our golden circle locked in when I had the good fortune of meeting Simon Sinek in a small group setting back in, it was on June 15th, 2011. And if I were dramatic enough to say that it changed my life, I would say it changed my life, because it really came into focus very, very quickly. In the first 5 minutes of listening to his in-person presentation to about 40 of us, I think there were, I had our golden circle drawn. Our why was business first, online second, which we had already trademarked at that point. And I can circle back to that, but that's our why. Our how was partnerships, not transactions. That was already in our sales materials, our one pagers. It was my description of how I wanted us to engage with our clients. And then our what at that time was complex websites with a focus on user experience. That was our what at that point. Fast forward to today, our why is still the same, business first, online second. That's trademarked. It's framed and hanging up inside our door at our office. Our how is still partnerships, not transactions. And our what is building and growing e-commerce channels. So our why and our how have been consistent, which Simon argues your why should definitely never change. Your how probably shouldn't either. But our what has evolved over time. I think we're on our third what. Since in the last 15 years. So I feel pretty good about that because that reflects, I think, being agile, evolving with the times without doing a pivot, which pivot isn't a bad word, but the way I think of pivot is when you really change direction. And we've been able to evolve consistently, but narrow or fine tune that what to be more current with what we're currently offering.
Yeah, he's amazing. I've learned so much from him. One of the things that I noticed on your website too, which is really unique, and that is the full service approach, Titan only. Like you don't farm anything out. So talk to us about that approach and then the impact that it's had with your clients, with your merchants.
When I am asked to describe Irish Titan or talk about what makes us unique, one of the things one of my answers, one of my themes is, I can give you two things right away. And then depending on the audience, it depends what the third or fourth might be. But the two are intangibly business first, online second, or why that I already mentioned. Because what that means is it's not about bits and bytes or pixels or keywords or AI. It's about how we work with our merchants because like 90% of our work is with e-commerce. So we call our clients merchants. So how we work with our merchants to understand their priorities, their strategies, their objectives, and then we bring our talents to bear. Because when I was on the other side of the table, at Second Swing and Wilson's, et cetera, I felt like the technology partners I worked with the best were the ones who thought like that. And the ones I worked with the worst that I didn't have as good of results were the ones that cared more about their features, their functionalities, their bits and bytes and pixels and keywords. So business first, online second is this intangible spirit that I feel distinguishes us from our competitors in more of an intangible way. And then I'll talk
you're
about
hitting their targets, right? Sorry.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it really resonates because in our space, and I'll try not to get distracted too much, but in our space, there are no barriers to entry. Sort of like a lot of service industries, there aren't really a lot of barriers to entry. And that's great for creativity, great for entrepreneurial spirit. It's not always great for the best business practices, the best resilience, and the best customer-focused experience. And so we're able to distinguish ourselves from a lot of our competitors who talk about their technology and don't talk about the client, the merchant, the end product. So that's the intangible USP, if you will. Titan only is the tangible one. And that's how I position the two together, because our Titan only model means we don't use any contractors, freelancers, or offshore resources for any of the work that Irish Titan does. Now, that doesn't mean that we do everything, because if you're everything to everybody, then you're nothing to everybody. And so, for example, if one of our clients, one of our merchants needs a photo shoot for product photography, we don't do that. We have some partners we can refer them to. Sure. We don't do branding. If someone needs a full branding experience, we can refresh logos and things like that. But if someone needs a full branding experience to define who they are, define their messaging, define their ethos, that's the sort of thing we don't do. We have partners that we work with for that. But building and growing e-commerce channels, we do that work with our Titans. And that is exceedingly rare in our space because we're so e-commerce focused. We have a well-defined set of competitors and cooperators, if you will, across the country, friends and peers that I think highly of, that we learn together, and then those fall into the cooperators field, and then the competitors that we know less or just operate a little bit differently. And so I'm pretty familiar with our competitive set. And we are, as far as I know, the only e-com agency of size that has a employee only, as we would say, Titan only model, especially one that does both build and grow. And so I can see when we speak to our clients, our prospects, I should say, I can see the light bulbs go off in their eyes. It's like one of those old Bugs Bunny cartoons or something like that, where you can see the animation behind them.
Yeah.
And I can tell they had a bad experience with either offshore resources, with language conflicts or time zone problems, or a bad experience with someone who was freelancer or contractor heavy with people coming and going. It really distinguishes us. And the last thing I'll mention, so that I don't take up all of our time as far as Titan only is concerned, it also, I think, is really powerful internally, because a lot of the professionals that we're interviewing have worked at other places that have contractors or freelancers or offshore resources. And then in our interview process, they hear about our Titan only. We talk about what that means and how we're working shoulder to shoulder, or kilt to kilt, as I like to say, every day. And it has absolutely contributed to retention, because our retention is incredibly high for our industry. And I think it's because our Titans start to trust in each other and invest in each other, and it creates that center of gravity internally, which I think also contributes to a better experience for our merchants and our clients.
Well, it's control for the merchant, it's control for you as well. So it's a win-win. And then your team, you got the cohesiveness of the team. Like you said, they've built the trust. So I would think too that it also helps you win in attracting best people as well.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it was, it was much tougher when we were young, wee little Irish Titan, right? When you're 5 people and you need to hire another one, hiring is a 20% increase. When you're 40 people and 22 years into it, you have some of your capacity forecasting much more patterned, and hiring an employee, hiring a Titan is still an important decision. I don't take that lightly, but it's much more of a defined process now. It's also a good example of often wrong, never in doubt, because in wee little Irish Titan days, I had some very successful people that I would grab coffee with or pints, and they would give me advice, and some of it I would take and some of it I wouldn't. And the Titan only model was one of those examples where I wouldn't, because they would say, do not do that. That increases your fixed cost. Variable costs are really valuable. And I totally understand that. And I'd say, yeah, I get it. I'm going to do it anyway for the reasons I already mentioned.
Yeah. And it's come full circle, and here you are.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you also have a really important, I love strategic partnerships. I think that really is the way for everyone to win, like collaboration, channel partnerships, things like that. And I know that you employ that. So maybe you could share with us how it works and why it works.
Yeah, I think that partnerships have been a absolutely key part of our growth, our strategy, our daily, weekly, monthly, yearly tactics. So our strategic vision is to solve the world's most complex commerce problems. We have 3 strategic imperatives. 1 is industry prominence, 2 is enduring services footprint, and the 3rd is vibrant partnerships. So those 3 strategic imperatives aren't annual strategic goals, are like the themes of how we grow over time with our annual strategic goals. And our potatoes, if we talk EOS, that's what we call our rocks, potatoes.
I love it.
But our strategic imperatives are those things that are sort of guidelines. So sort of like the golden circle or a few other things. I do best with some models that keep me somewhat in check. Otherwise, I can go sort of haywire. But the models give me enough direction that then I can keep things moving, within some guidelines. And so golden circle is helpful for that. These strategic imperatives are helpful for that. And that's one of the ways I try to lead and manage at Irish Titan, are providing some of these models and some of these guidelines so that there is some self-management that people can practice on decision making.
Totally. Absolutely.
And so partnerships have been a really big part of that. When I started Irish Titan, I wasn't either aware of the value of partnerships in our industry, or maybe it hadn't yet emerged. But in 2010, 2011 was when I really started to recognize how valuable partnerships were in the e-commerce space. And I know every industry is different,
Yes.
but I have some friends in the IT space, like managed services, et cetera. And I know partnerships are big there. Like if you're a good Microsoft partner,
Yes.
then that's one of the ways you can source a lot of business. So it's similar to that. So we partner with, for example, Shopify, BigCommerce, now they're known as commerce.com, Magento, who's now part of Adobe, Shopware, ShipStation, which is owned by Octane, but ShipStation actually does a lot of TV commercials. You might start to notice them. PayPal's another one, Stripe's another one. And we have been in the industry long enough and have industry prominence, speaking of one of those three strategic imperatives, where those partnerships are really valuable in a whole host of ways. We get more than half of our leads from our partners. And so I think that is valuable. We do co-selling and co-marketing motions with our partners, like panels and thought leadership. And that creates content that our prospects find valuable. It creates content that our clients that we're name checking find valuable, right? Because our clients, our merchants love being mentioned. And so it's really valuable in that regard. And then I think the sort of intangible value I see in it is that when you can, if you're in an industry where partnerships like this are at hand, and if you're able to cross that chasm where you can be leveraging these partnerships, which is mutual, you have to establish to the partners that you're bringing value to. And that takes some time.
Got to be two-way, yep.
But if you can achieve that, I think that there's more institutional strength and muscle memory there than compared to quote unquote sales, because I think sales is not entirely, but is much more personally driven. I have these relationships with these people. If I get hired at my next spot, I can call these people as prospects and get business.
Yeah.
And I think that partnerships and marketing tend to be more institutionally driven, and sales tends to be more personally driven. If you build a company, or if you're trying to build a company of scale and longevity and resiliency and bigger than any individual person, I feel like partners really provides a lot of value, and it has for us.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and it's not as unpredictable. Like sales can be unpredictable, right? They're not as much control over that as those relationships that create that recurring sale, the recurring revenue, the longevity, the value, like you just said. And it's really a win-win arrangement. It's not one-sided, like you said. So I strongly believe, regardless of the industry, I know that there's always ways that companies can collaborate and strengthen their footprint that way.
Yeah.
So maybe before we wrap up, could we just share some kind of client or merchant illustration? I'm sure you have a gazillion, but I know that there's some major impact, and I'd just like you to share a story really quick.
Yeah, there are a few that come to mind. I'll try to maybe share and name check a few that might have more name recognition, particularly with where we're located and headquartered. So for example, Schmidt Music is a client, and we did a really cool project for them in the e-com space, especially during COVID. This notion of BOPUS really blew up, which is buy online, pick up in store. So if you shopped online, even if you're not an e-commerce expert, if you shopped online, you've perhaps either done that or noticed at checkout, hey, do I want to pick it up in a store? With Schmidt Music, because of how deeply embedded they are into the educational system, with bringing your kids up through school, we launched and worked with them to launch this it's still called BOPUS, but it's buy online, pick up in school. And so that was really fun with them. First of all, I played a lot of instruments growing up. My daughters both played instruments. I spent a lot of time in Schmidt Music while they were sitting there, in lessons, I guess. And so that was a fun project that really met a need on behalf of parents, on behalf of schools, on behalf of students, and it sort of modernized Schmidt to be able to continue to adapt to the way families are engaging and trying to find instruments and those sorts of things. So that's one thing, or one success story. Another that I'll mention is Burnett Dairy. Burnett Dairy is located in Grantsburg, Wisconsin. I think it is Highway 70. So if you're going to Siren or Spooner, or I think Hayward too, a lot of people take that Highway 70.
Yeah.
Burnett Dairy is a fantastic, so I am a fan of various cheeses, so I'm a little biased, but Burnett Dairy is a co-op right there in Grantsburg. Really great place to stop. They have ice cream and sandwiches, and then a whole incredibly large inventory of cheeses to choose from.
I've heard that from my neighbors. Haven't been there yet, but I'm going to now.
It's a great stop. It really is a great stop. Even if you don't get any cheese, it's fun to stop with the kids or grandkids or family and friends because of the other things you can buy there. But we've been working with them for a few years. We elevated their Black Friday, Cyber Monday program, which is the program right around Thanksgiving weekend. And over the last couple of years, they've had a 25% increase in their Black Friday, Cyber Monday performance and had a 6.28%, if I remember right, because I checked before this, ROAS, return on ad spend, for those campaigns. And those are really strong. We've also done a lot with Certix and have strong metrics there. You know, they're in the Twin Cities. A lot of people know them.
Yes.
The last one I'll mention, just knowing your audience a little bit, because I know you have a lot of B2B manufacturers, distributors in your network too. CNL Ward is a client, and they're a B2B manufacturer of highly specialized parts and accessories for home, home products, particularly windows. And so they launched a windowparts.com site a few years ago, which I think modernized their business, right? They were a manufacturer distributor. They diversified from just B2B to B2B and B2C. And then we have worked with them on that site for a while and have launched email campaigns that drove $43,000 in revenue in 1 week, high ROAS again, and 25% increase in paid media year-over-year performance. So that's a combination of building the sites the right way and then working with our merchants to grow the sites the right way with their e-commerce marketing activities.
Great examples. And I love the fact that you guys have got that talent under one roof, because they're two different skill sets, right?
Yeah.
Building and then growing. Yeah. Very impressive. We have run out of time, unfortunately, but this has been fabulous, as I knew it would be. So thanks for joining us, sharing your wisdom and your story and all the great things that you're doing at Irish Titan.
Well, thank you for being such a great host. As I've told you over the years, you are incredibly easy to speak with, and you guide this like a pro. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Darin. We'll talk soon. Take care.